It was a Sunday night. I had my planner open on the counter, my favorite pen in my hand, and I was writing out plans for the week like I knew what my body was going to do. By Tuesday afternoon, that planner was sitting closed on the counter and I could not even look at it. Today, I want to talk about why planning a week the normal way sets so many of us up to feel like we've failed, and what to do instead when you cannot predict what body you're going to wake up in. So let's get into it.
Welcome to Chronic Illness Moms. If you're more than just a tired mom, I'm talking trying to make it through the day without crashing by noon while raising neurodivergent kids, you're not alone. I'm Ashley, a wife, mom, and certified health coach. I have lived with autoimmune disease and flare-ups that made everyday life feel harder than it should. After years of pushing through and burning out, I learned how much stress, poor sleep, and nervous system overload were driving my symptoms. Everything changed when I started building small, realistic habits that actually supported my body instead of fighting it. In this podcast, you'll learn simple habits that help you to feel better. So pop in your earbuds and take a break from the chaos. It's you time.
Friend, I want to personally invite you to book a Feel Better coaching call with me. It is 1 hour and we do a lifestyle audit together. I will ask you where you are, what's been going on with your body, and where you are feeling most stuck, or where you would like to see the most progress in your health and your chronic symptoms. Then we're going to map out an action plan that's built specifically around your schedule, your symptoms, and your capacity as a mom. You will get a written summary of the plan emailed to you after the call, and then 2 follow-up check-ins so that you are not left on your own trying to figure out what your next step is. If you are ready to stop guessing and get a clear path forward to feeling like yourself again, go to ashleybraden.com/coaching. That is ashleybraden.com/coaching. So let me tell you about that Sunday night, because I think a lot of you have probably experienced this. The kids were asleep, I had a warm cup of tea, and I had my planner open to plan out the week. I love that feeling, if I'm being honest. And I remember writing everything in, had an appointment that I'd been putting off, a morning that I was going to set aside to finally tackle some decluttering that I'd been putting off. I was going to batch record some podcast episodes. And I remember looking at that page and feeling for a few minutes like, I've got all of this handled. This is going to be a great week. And Tuesday came and I woke up in a little bit of a flare. I don't even remember exactly what triggered it because, sometimes there just isn't a clear explanation. But I knew within just a few minutes of waking up that this was not going to be the day where I tackled a bunch of stuff and got a bunch of stuff done. And it's so funny because, by Wednesday morning, when I glanced at that planner sitting on the counter closed, what felt like a really good tool for me no longer did anymore by the time Wednesday rolled around. It felt like this list of promises that I had broken to myself and other people instead. Have you ever looked at your own planner like it was evidence against you? Like proof that you tried to have a normal week and you failed at it again? I think the problem is that most of us were taught to plan your week for a body that behaves the same way every single day. To also plan your week as if you don't have a child or children who sometimes the schedule changes and things fluctuate, and you have to be really fluid with that. So if your body is not in that kind of body and your schedule is not that kind of schedule, then that kind of planning is going to set you up to feel like you have failed no matter how organized or motivated you were when you sat down on Sunday night to plan things out. I remember, just sitting with that feeling for a long time before I changed anything about it, because my first instinct was to just try harder at planning, to buy a nicer planner, to try a new app, to color code things differently. And the problem was that none of that touched the actual problem, which was that I was planning one single version of my week and hoping that my body, my schedule, my kids would cooperate with it. On top of managing, my own flares, like I said, I have a house where the schedule can change. We might have an off day for a kid, which means I have to adjust things and I have to work in that reality. And that's where I was really setting myself up for failure, because the fix was never going to be a better planner. It had to be a different way of thinking about how to plan out my week before I even got to that Sunday night planning time. So let's talk about 3 things that I want you to try instead. Not a new app or a fancier planner, just a different way of thinking about the week before you ever sit down to plan it out. Okay, the first thing is build 2 versions of the same week, not just one fixed plan. And here's what I mean by that. For anything that you have on your calendar that it matters, you really want to get it done, I want you to write down the full version of it. So the thing that you would do on a good day, and then right next to it, write a smaller version of that exact same thing that you could at least make some progress on for a hard day. So maybe it's that you want to go get coffee with a friend. The good day version is that you go, you sit, and you have a great time. The hard day version might be that it's a 15-minute phone call instead, or even just a text saying, hey, I'm having a really hard time. Can we push this to next week? I still will want to see you. Again, you're still connecting with the person. It's just at a smaller capacity for what you were able to do. I have started doing this, really, to be honest with you, having 4 kids in 3.5 years has helped me to become a lot more flexible, a lot more laid back. And what I've noticed is just being able to set goals, but really no more than three things that I want to accomplish a day. We've talked about this before in podcast episodes. 1 thing a day is even better. But giving myself the grace to say, okay, I can focus on 1 thing, and if I can't do anything else, I can move forward. Or holding the things that I want to accomplish a little bit looser. So let's say I wanted to do it X, Y, and Z. I wanted to record a podcast episode at 10, but a child was having a really hard time. And so now I need to bump that to the evening. Also, just being able to flow a little bit better has been very helpful. Because the other thing to keep in mind is sometimes whenever a flare hits, your instinct is to treat the whole day is canceled. So it has to be all or nothing. And what I've realized is that most of what was on my calendar or that were on my to-do list, there are smaller versions of that I could do that I never even considered, because I was only planning for this full version of me that was going to be able to, I have to accomplish the whole thing. It's the all or nothing mindset. So, for those of us who are managing our households, we are raising our kids, on top of our own chronic symptoms, it really matters a lot for you to be able to say, this is the ideal version of what I want to accomplish this week. But also, I know the reality of my life, my body, and my circumstances. So here are some alternatives that I can do instead if I need to fall back on this, and I can still make progress and still connect with people and get what I want done. Okay, and I also think that having a smaller version already thought out is really helpful, because let's say you do wake up feeling really bad. You don't typically want to try to problem solve how you can still accomplish stuff at that point. So you're just basically setting yourself up for success by having an idea or a goal that's a smaller version of the full thing that you would like to do ready to go that you can fall back on. Okay, the other thing is protect 1 deliberate empty pocket before you start adding stuff to it. So this one is really simple, and I think it's one that's really easy to skip when you're feeling good, which is often actually why, at least I, need it the most. So before you fill in your week, I want you to pick 1 chunk of time. It doesn't have to be a whole day or even a whole morning or afternoon. It could be 15 minutes. It could be 30 minutes, but just leave it empty on purpose. Not for errands, not for catching up on laundry, just open. So that if you are not feeling great, or if you have a child who is struggling, it gives you somewhere to land. It gives you a little bit of flexibility that is not right in the middle of some other commitment or goal that you already had. I have said this before. I like to be moving. I like to be doing things. And so my tendency is to fill every single moment of the day with something. I do like to read. I love to sit outside. So I shouldn't say that. I've gotten better as I've gotten older about taking the time to rest. But, me 3 years ago, it was such a struggle to take the time to do that, because it felt like I was not making the most of the times that I felt good whenever it was happening, or like I was not making the most of my time. And again, some of that falls back into the broken mindset of feeling like we have to earn rest, or that rest is bad. But the problem with filling your schedule so full is that, the very first hard moment that you have happen, or maybe schedule that gets shifted, it causes a domino effect through everything else. And so giving yourself 1 or 2 empty pockets of time, again, it's not going to fix the flare. It's not going to fix what's going on, but it's going to give you a little bit of extra space to shift, to pivot, to take a moment to regroup if you've had a really hard week. Okay, and the last one, and I think this is probably the one that I personally struggled with the most, is to get rid of the idea of a wasted day. Because I don't think that this idea is really about planning at all. I think it's about the story that we tell ourselves afterward. So when a flare hits and you have to drop things in your schedule or use an empty pocket of time or whatever it is that you're having to do, so many of us walk away and we feel like, oh my goodness, I wasted that day, or I didn't get anything done. I failed at my plan. And I just want to gently challenge that idea. A day where you managed a flare, you kept your kid regulated and fed and safe, and you still found a smaller version of one of the things that you wanted to do and you were able to tackle it, that is not a wasted day. That is a day really that you looked at what life gave you and you pivoted and you did the best you could in the circumstances that you had. And I like to think about it like this now. If the plan only works on the days when everything goes perfect, when everyone's having a good day, when I feel good, then it was never actually a plan that fits my real life. It's almost like it was a wish. It was a hope because it's not actually fitting my reality. It was a plan for a life that I don't currently have. So the version of planning that actually respects my body, my kids, my home, my schedule, that counts the hard days as part of the plan, that is not a failure. That is not a wasted day. And downgrading a day or deciding to focus on helping your child or resting when you need it, that is not a wasted day. It is you doing exactly what you need to do to help your children to feel your best in the real life that you live. Okay. Before I give you one kind of homework type thing to do, I want to just recap everything real quick. So the first goal is to build 2 versions of your week, a good day version versus a hard day. And of course, on the hard day version, what is a smaller version of the thing that you really want to accomplish? The other thing I want to add with that is that if you are trying to cram pack your day with as much as possible, I would also encourage you, can we get that down to 3 things that really matter to you? That I also think really helps you to set yourself up for success and not feeling like you are not keeping up with what you want to do. Okay, then plan out a pocket of one time frame that you have nothing in it. You have nothing that you're filling with it. It's just an empty pocket of time. And then the third thing is to get rid of the idea that really not accomplishing or being as productive as you wanted to be, that it is a wasted day. Because we know managing a flare or doing something, even though it might not have been as much as you wanted to do, or helping your child, those things are not time wasted. They are doing things that matter to you and that are the things you need to do to show up in the life that you live. Okay, so here's the thing I want you to focus on for this week. Before you sit down to plan, I want you to pick one thing that's already on your calendar, whether it's a commitment, a plan with a friend, a goal that you have to accomplish, and write a smaller version of it right next to the full version. That's it. You don't have to rebuild your whole system this week. Just pick one thing that you feel like, okay, if I were to cancel on this, this is probably what would cause me the most guilt. And then give it a smaller version ahead of time. You're planning out, this is what the smaller version, if I cannot commit to the full thing, this is what the smaller version is going to look like. So that the next time you are scrambling or you are spiraling in guilt, you are just switching to plan B because you already wrote it down and you already have it planned out. And I want you to just picture this for a second. It is Tuesday. A flare hits, how it does sometimes, and instead of that familiar feeling of guilt and shame and scrambling to try to figure out how to cancel or how to explain, you just glance at your planner and the smaller version of what you plan to do is already written there from days ago. You already have it mapped out. You're not in crisis mode. You get to send the text to the friend and let them know. You do a smaller version instead of nothing at all, and that's it. Not a bigger effort. You're not pushing yourself through until you crash. It's just a plan that you already had ahead of time so that you really just planning for your real life and how you truly feel and the ebbs and flows of dealing with chronic symptoms. All right, friend, that is all for today. And also next week, we are going to be getting a little bit back into the back to school themed stuff because I know a lot of you are already into that shift. I know we are as well. So whether your kids are heading back into a classroom or you're gearing up for another year of homeschool, we're going to talk a little bit about it. I will see you then.
Hey friend, I hope you found today's episode helpful. If you did, would you take a minute to share it with another mom who's struggling with chronic symptoms? And leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It means the world to me to know this podcast is making a difference for you. All right, it's time for me to go tackle those snack requests, and remember that a short walk, even if the kids turn it into a race, still counts as self-care. Keep chasing those little wins. Even when it feels messy, you're making progress. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. I'm not a doctor, and this podcast is not intended to treat or diagnose any condition. You're the expert on your body. Listen to it and reach out to a trusted provider for support.